We're going to go over what the keyboard buttons 1 through 7 do. And these are not the buttons on the numpad, they are the ones above the actual keyboard. 1, 2, and 3 are in the same group, and 4, 5, 6, and 7 are in their own group. By default, whether you know it or not, you are looking at your object in one mode, which does not show a smoothing preview. If I select any object and I hit 3, it will show me a smoothing preview. For a cube, it will become a sphere. Smoothing is calculated by how close or far edges are from each other, and since a cube does not have edges that are very close to each other, it will smooth a great deal, and it will turn into a sphere. If I hit 2, I will see the original wireframe as well as the smoothed mesh. And if I hit 1, I will be out of my smoothing preview. This is just a preview. This is not something that is set in stone. There's no geometry to support it. So if you exported your object in 3 mode, if you brought it into Painter, Unity, or any other program, it would look like this. It can be a nice way to see what your object will look like, and if you render, the Arnold renderer will see the smoothing preview, so you don't actually have to increase the geometry. If you do want to cut in the geometry of the smoothing preview, you would come up to Modify, Convert, and Smooth Mesh Preview to Polygon. This is similar if you just hit the Smooth button in the modeling toolkit and turn the subdivisions up. Next we have 4, 5, 6, and 7. The default view is shaded, and we have a gray material applied to it, and that is what you get if you hit 5 on the keyboard. If you hit 4, you will activate the wireframe mode. 6 will activate any textures that you have, and 7 will turn on any lights. 5 and 6 right now will look the same because there is nothing applied to this cube, and 7 will be black because there are no lights in the scene. Back in the regular smoothing or shading, you can also turn on wireframe on shaded. So right now my object is not selected and I cannot see a wireframe. If I hit this button right here, we have wireframe on shaded, and that will give me a faint outline of the wireframe. This can be very helpful when you're modeling more complicated objects. So let me unhide this. And it can be very nice to see what your geometry, what your edges are looking like without having to select every single individual object. And as you can see, when we hit 3 for the cube, it changed a great deal. Let's just hit 3 on this object that has a lot more edges. You can see it still smooths, but it is not as smooth. It did not turn into a sphere and completely lose its shape. It'll be similar with all of these. The more edges you have, the slightly more refined your smoothing will be. You can marquee select multiple objects and hit 3 on all of them. Depending on how complicated your mesh is and how good your computer is, sometimes you will get a warning asking if you really want to smooth an object because it can take up a lot of processing power. So I just added a texture file to this object. So if I hit 6, instead of being gray, it will now show the texture that has been created for it. I also have some lights in my scene I'm going to unhide. And as you can see, the lighting did not change. That's because I have to hit 7. And now I can see some lighting information. It is not final lighting information. There'll be a lot more when you actually render, but it gives you a very nice preview of what the lighting, the shadows will be. So 1, 2, and 3 allow you to change the smoothing of your object. 4 will be wireframe. 5 is shaded. 6 is texture, and 7 is lights. If you are in 5 shading and you jump straight to 7, you will not have the texture turned on, but it will still give you the lighting information.